Today I'm going to share a couple of recipes for beautiful, delicious Tunisian cookies I used to have when I was a kid with my brother and my sister growing up in Brooklyn and later on in Queens. I'm doing this because I want to honor my grandmother. Her name was Maria Giacalone Morello, and my mother, who is also Maria Morello Donato. And these are things that we grew up to enjoy. Myself, my brother Dominic, and my sister Claudine. And I just want to explain our culture, when we go way back, is Sicilian. I'm a Sicilian American. But my parents were born in Tunisia, in North Africa. And so there were a lot of Italians when my parents were born there in the 30s. There were a lot of Italians there. There were French, because the country was a French protectorate. It was an Arab nation, also Jewish. With the Arab and the Jewish and the French and the Italian and the Sicilian, the cuisine is unlike any other cuisine. The things that we were accustomed to eating when we grew up were really different, and you didn't really appreciate it unless you were from there. You know, like we would run into people that were from that area, and they would enjoy the same types of the dishes, desserts that we enjoyed as kids that are not traditional Arabic or Middle Eastern dishes. They're not Sicilian, they're not Italian, but they're more so a melting pot of all of these different cultures. One thing she used to call Zoriette, and Zoriette is basically a very, very light dough that we're going to twirl around and deep fry it, and then finish it with a homemade glaze and some confectioner's little candies that we put on it. And they're really nice. They're crispy and they're light and they're delicious, and everything is natural. My mouth is watering just as I talk about it. I'm going to stick with the traditional preparation. Well, here are the ingredients for the dough that we're going to make these Zoriette. We're going to have egg white, some yeast as a leavening agent, I guess, and we'll use regular all-purpose flour, unsweetened butter, some baking powder, and there'll be some vanilla. Here you'll see the ingredients that we'll be using to create the glaze or the syrup that gets drizzled on the Zoriette, okay? So there'll be some sesame seeds for garnish. As you can see, I have candy sprinkles because my grandmother, Nonna, as we called her, and my mother, Mima, as we called her, used to use the candy sprinkles as their own little twist to the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern recipe. The more traditional recipe calls for sesame seeds. So we'll make a few with the sesame seeds and a few with candy sprinkles to honor my grandmother and my mother. Here we are. We're going to mix the flour, 2 cups of flour. We're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Put that in there. We're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of the dry yeast. And we're going to mix that all together with a fork. We're going to take 2 tablespoons of the butter, which is the unsalted butter, and we're going to put it in chunks. Now, when Nonna used to make these, there was no processor, so everything was done by hand. My grandmother used to do it, so my hands are clean. I washed my hands, and now I'm going to mix this all up with stay as clean as possible. And I think that's just about it. So it's just calling for a dash of vanilla and the 1 egg white. So I'm going to mix that in, get that egg white in there, and then we'll get the vanilla in there. Now the vanilla, I just got this brand new, so it's good to see that they got the seal on there, so you know that it hasn't been tampered with. And I'm just going to add a dash of vanilla, maybe a little more, just to give it a little of the taste. And then that continues to get mixed. I'm just going to kind of get that mixed up a little bit. Try not to dirty my hands. Get the egg white in there. Continue to mix. And then at some point when that's kind of thoroughly mixed in, but there's the water. And I'm going to add the water, but I'm not going to add it all, because you could always add a little more water. If you see the dough is not coming out the consistency that you want. And we want it to be light, elastic, have a certain amount of elasticity, but we don't want it too loose. We don't want it like pancakes. And what happens is if you put in too much liquid, then you can't take it out, right? But if we put in a little less and we say, oh, yeah, so you can see that's kind of dry, right? So we say, all right, let's add a little bit more and let's continue to mix and try to get that doughy consistency that we're looking for. And I'm going to add a little bit more water, not much, and now I'm going to start using my hands. You can see it's nice, it's light, and it's dough, but enough. And I think that's it. That looks like a good ball of dough. I'm going to wrap it in cling wrap. I don't know if you could see me. Can you see me? Over there. Over there. Cover it with cling wrap. And then this is going to go in the refrigerator. Going to rest for 15 minutes. My grandmother, when she used to be doing this, she would have already have baked a batch of cookies, and they'd be off to the side, with one of these little towels over them. So we would go in there when we knew she was preparing stuff, and we'd get our hand under the towel, and she would say, oh, don't touch. But, in reality, she probably had those things prepared, those cookies, for us, even though she acted like we weren't allowed to touch it, because that would keep us around the house and, around, which I'm realizing now as I get older, it's nice to have the kids around, and then eventually if you have the blessing of having grandchildren, that's all you would want to do. But anyway, I used regular, Jack Frost, just granulated sugar, and when it came out, it was a little lumpy. So before I create the mixture that I'm going to put in a little saucepan, it's 2 cups of this granulated sugar, but I'm just going to take out some of the lumps or whatever. I'm going to put the 2 cups of sugar in here, and then it's a cup of water, which I pre-measured, and it's pretty simple. I'm going to give it a dash of vanilla also. Vanilla brings out the flavors, just a dash. And then it's calling for like the juice of a quarter of a lemon, so a quarter of a teaspoon. So I'm just going to add a little bit of lemon. I don't want to make it like too much, but I do like a little bit. And then I'll take the spoon and, it gets like this muddy mixture that I'll just kind of mix. You could hear it. Oh, as I'm making this, I'm just feeling my mother and my grandmother. And then I'm going to take it on here on the stove, very low heat, and just have that simmering. My grandmother, what she would do even is put a little piece of the lemon rind in. So that's simmering, and we're going to continue to wait now for the dough to set. It's got about another 10 minutes. Okay, so it's been about a half hour. It kind of sets. It gives that yeast a chance to make a little bit of air in there to make the dough a little fluffier. Unwrap the dough. from its cling wrap. It looks really good. I mean, it looks good, it looks light, it looks like it's set really nice. I'm going to take a little flour and just, you know, just for the purpose of working the dough so it doesn't get stuck to my board, I'm going to basically cut it in half like that. And, you know, my grandmother used to just use her eye. You know, I always said about Nonna, you know, she was really much brighter. She was probably the brightest person in our family. Nonna was a seamstress, but she used to specialize in embroidery, and she used to create these wonderful kerchiefs and tablecloths by commission. She used to be commissioned by some of the wealthier people in her village in Tunis. So I'm going to take 1/2 of this and I'm going to cut it in 3, try to make it even, right? So there's 1, and there's 2, so that's 3, and put them here like that, and then I'll take this one, which is the other half, and try to make it into like a little rectangle, so that, and go 1, and then this one in half, so that gives me 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, we only have 6. So I'm going to try to leave them rectangular, because what I'm going to do now is with the, I'm going to try to make them kind of like that, if you could see what I'm doing, because when I do it with the rolling pin, I want to make like almost like lasagnas, okay? These strips are then going to be cut and deep fried into our vegetable oil, which, let's see what's going on here. My syrup, I don't know if you could see that, but that sugar, you know, if you could see, the sugar is now like a liquid, it's a syrup, and then as it reduces, it gets a little thicker, you know? So I'm going to just continue to reduce that. Anyway. Oh, you hear that? Oh, I love that music. So anyway, so let me just get this ready, number 5, and then ultimately number 6. Let me get a little dish over here to put the ones that I'm not working on so they're not in the way. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll leave 1, and let's start with the rolling pin. And this is kind of a, okay, that's a little sticky. So I'm gonna put a little starch on there. And the key is to make this as thin as possible. Let me tell you something. There was some Italian grandmothers that this used to be the disciplinary weapon that they used to use when the kids got out of hand. You know, I remember my friend Phil in Queens. Boy, oh boy, the 2 things that his mother used to use to straighten him out were the rolling pin and the cucchiara. The cucchiara was the gigantic spoon. You know, it was bigger. It was like a big spoon, but it was big and wooden, and it was heavy. And that cucchiara, boom! You would bang them on the back of the head. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose, it touches my foolish heart. Yeah, I love singing Sinatra songs. My friends know me as JoJo Napoli, and boy, oh boy, is it a pleasure to be able to sing in front of friends at family parties and stuff like that. I really do enjoy it. But you get the idea, right? So this is going to be very long, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half, depending on how big I want to do them, because what will happen is this dough will get curled or rolled around a fork and then dropped into hot oil to make them golden brown. Now, the longer I make the strip, then the thicker the rosette comes out. It's going to be like a rosette, all twirled. You'll see it when we get to the frying pan. It's really beautiful. All right, so we've got the oil heated up. I don't know if you could see that. I'm doing the best I can to get a camera angle. And I'm going to show you how I got those strips. Can you see that? There you go. You see that? So they're in these 4-inch strips. So that recipe, just so you know, yielded approximately 10 of these cookies, and they're pretty big. They should come out, if everything comes out correctly, they should come out about that big. And so what I've set up, I used the Crisco pure vegetable oil. All right, maybe I don't have to say the name. And I don't know if you notice, and then after we eat the stuff, we got to have some brioche, okay? So anyway, that's how good they are. So now the whole thing is going to be the art of getting these things deep fried. And what I'm going to do is I take a little piece of the dough and I'm going to throw it in there to see how it goes. And it looks like the temperature. Now I'm sure there's a temperature with oil thermometer and what have you, but this is the best I can do. All right, so I'm going to use 2 forks and I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to stabilize my oil temperature, and what I'm going to do is really experiment here. So I'm gonna, the way I saw them do it, and the way I used to see my grandmother do it, was lay it down in the, and then start to kind of like twirl it around the fork. And make like a rose, an art. All right. I'm doing one, but I don't know if you could see. It comes out like a rose. And then what I'll do is I'll take it and put it on this paper. And once the paper absorbs the oil, then I'll drizzle. It really looks nice. I want to see if you could see it. I don't know if you could see it, but it looks nice. I'm going to get better at the floret, to make it more even. I think what I'm going to do is wrap more of it around the fork to start, and then go in, and then continue to twirl. I guess there's I'm going to turn the fan on a little bit once I sign off with you guys. All right, so I just want to get it to where I take the first one out. And once I take the first one out, then I'm going to go ahead and finish this frying, and then I'll show you when we plate them and drizzle. Okay, so we're here, and we've got the Zoriette all deep fried. I've put them on the paper, to absorb some of the extra oil. You see they're...
they look like roses.
Yeah, they're like little rosettes, if you will. And if you look in here, you'll see the syrup is reduced really nice. It coats You see how it coats the spoon, okay?
Do we know what's in there?
Yeah, so what's in there, again, just to repeat, is sugar, water, lemon rind, so the juice of a lemon, and a cinnamon stick, and 1 or 2 whole cloves. So what I'm gonna do is now press the Zoriette and just drizzle this beautiful syrup all over with the citrus and the cinnamon, and these are all the flavors of Tunisia, you know, and if you notice, everything is very natural and beautiful. I mean, nothing complicated about this. No preservatives, nothing. And that's it. You kind of drizzle this sugar and it's really decadent. And that's about it.
Okay.
I'll put this back.
Oh, that looks really good.
And if you notice, then the traditional, what they would do is put sesame seeds to garnish on top of to give it like a roasted flavor with the sweet. But my grandmother used to make it a little more happy, and she would drizzle it with, what are these called? Candy sprinkles. You see that? Candy sprinkles. Just to make it a little more festive for the kids. And that's about it, Linda. And now it's time to enjoy one.
Okay.
Hold on. And that's it. And this is called Zoriette alla nonna Morello, to honor my grandmother, Maria Giacalone Morello. And now let's take a piece. Oh, this would go nice with a nice cup of coffee. Let's see what we got here.
Wow, that's crunchy. Crunchy.
It's very crunchy. It's beautiful. You taste the vanilla, the lemon, the clove. It's just beautiful.